Alrighty, we're coming up on Monpee intersection, heading down to Guam at flight level 370 into the tropical storm, and I think we're going to get bumped around pretty good going in there tonight. But it's not going to tear the wings off, so I'm not too worried about it. You just kind of pick your way through that stuff. But I bet I have, it's been not hurricane, Typhoon City down here last couple of months. So Guam's been pretty unscathed, but yeah, system went past it, and we're flying on the backside of it, and then out of there heading towards Hawaii, where we actually get to go a little bit closer to it. What fun! I can't tell you how much fun that is. So anyhow, it's what we do up here. Right now the radar's not painting anything. But I think another couple hundred miles down the road it's going to be that way. So, but anyhow, just looking at it, this is what I deal with on a. It's just what I deal with all the time, weather, But I deal with it all the time, and occasionally you just have to say no, when it's bad enough. Usually, more than anything else, it's the winds that'll stop this airplane, or super low visibility. I mean, those are the two things that we can't handle. So when you see that it's doing that, in my case, I work with the dispatcher, and we kind of make that decision together, which is kind of nice because you have somebody to talk to about the flight, looking at the weather, talking about the fuel, and looking at the alternatives and the alternate airports. But when you're by yourself, you don't always have that. You don't have that opportunity. You're the guy that's got to make the decision, as to whether you're going to go or not, and that's a toughie because there's a lot of I know there's a lot of pressure, especially when there's people depending on you to get them someplace, or people are waiting for you, or you promised that you'd bring the airplane over, or it's a rental aircraft and you feel the need that you have to get it back right now, or it's a business deal that you have to get there, or you're not going to make the big bucks, Well, the problem with obviously going in weather conditions that are less than good, what the outcome could very well be, and the outcome's not good. I have some stories I'll tell you in a different time about guys that I know that have made that decision. So I know that everyone talks about personal minimums. They talked about that when I was a private pilot, but they go, make sure you define your personal minimums. Like, what does that mean? I mean, I never knew it. No one explained it to me. I was like, well, VFR is 1,003, so that's my minimum, is that. It's VFR. I didn't really understand it until I remember flying once from Seattle over the mountains, and really 1,003 weather all the way, and you can't see. The 3 miles is not enough visibility. If you don't know the area, I know Puget Sound like the back of my hand, but if you don't know an area, you get over to Eastern Washington, it's flat. There aren't big shorelines to follow, and man, I got lost. And fortunately, I found a lake that I knew because I used to go to it when I was a kid, and just went to found the airport and landed there. And just kind of, it's like, wow, that was not good. So then I understood what personal minimums were. So, I guess for yourself, do you have your personal minimums? What it meant to me was my minimums when I was close to home were, basic VFR minimums. But when I started doing cross-country stuff, I raised that to 3,000 feet and 5 miles so I could see where I was going. And then later when I went back and did that same flight, wow, what a difference, because then I could actually see where I was going. And, when you're looking at a checknal, this is before GPS. And even with GPS, you don't want to go trudging along and not pay attention to ground landmarks. I mean, just GPS direct, man, that can get you in a lot of trouble. So that's a whole other video. So anyhow, the thing that you got to look at is in the decision-making process is you have to define something. What are you comfortable with? And if the weather's lower than that, then don't go. So, you always, Flying Magazine has, Aftermath, and I learned about flying from that. AOPA has their stuff, but it's all post-crash type stuff and post screw up. I learned about flying from that and flying. Man, I read that all the time. It's interesting stuff, seeing what happened. But I think what I'm really curious about is I've never seen anybody ask, why didn't you go? What was the decision that led you to not take a flight? And I think somewhere on the website I might put something together like that. I'm really curious as to what the situation was and why you didn't go. And I think that type of information, if we could share that amongst the other pilots that look at that, I think that we might get some good out of it. I mean, even for me, because when I go out doing the VFR stuff, it's the same for me. I'm a professional in this. Am I a professional VFR guy? No, not at all. I'm maybe 15 out of 10 hours a year. I mean, I just don't do general aviation enough to be super proficient at it. So yeah, I've got my minimums, but there's times when, like, hey, you're gonna bring the airplane up? You're a 7-4 captain. Well, I can't let that ego get in my way. Definitely, if the weather's bad, the weather's bad. But it's frustrating, and I understand that. So let me talk to the webmaster guy, see if we can't put something together like that. Why you didn't take a flight? What decisions, or what was the condition that led you to not take that flight? I know that in the decision-making process, one thing that I learned when I was younger, and I had this happen several times and I didn't recognize it, was when I was putting the flight together and you start looking at the weather, and usually it was always the weather. I mean, it just is, what else is it going to be, unless someone shows up and says, hey, we want to charter a plane, and we're trying to put 8 people in a 172. That's not going to work. But usually it's the weather. So I noticed that when I'd be putting these flights together when I was a private pilot, or, going someplace, that if the weather, I would kind of get this pit in my stomach, and I didn't recognize that that was the trigger to stop right there and not take the flight because of that trigger. That one moment of hesitation is the thing that I needed to recognize. I didn't. I know it now. I mean, I see something bad, it's spades and spades. Like, we're not going. But then I didn't really know, because I was so worried that other people were depending on me. No, a professional pilot, even a student pilot, private pilot, students you kind of control by your instructor. But when you're a private, now you're a licensed guy to go take an airplane, licensed woman, female to go take an airplane around, flying around. It's up to you to make this decision. You can't let somebody push you into it. That's another trigger right there. Boom. So you got to recognize those situations. The first one is the gut instinct. And as soon as you get that gut instinct, stop the flight. That is the thing. I know you feel bad that you let people down, but that's the one thing, and that is being a professional pilot. It really is. I mean, you've made a great professional decision not to go. And the one flight I can think of is John F. Kennedy. Do you think that at some point he knew that it was hazy, he knew that it was getting dark? Do you think that at some point he had that gut feeling? I bet he did, Just keep that in your memory bank and your bag of tricks, that when you're putting a flight together and it doesn't look good, and you get that feeling, that one feeling in your stomach that this isn't good, stop it. Don't go any further. Turn around, tell your people, get on the cell phone, we can't do it today, the weather's bad. And that's going to save your life, really. I just don't want to. I hate hearing about people going out and flying and hitting in a terrain. You know what it's called, control of flight in a terrain. I want to shoot a video on that whole thing. But basically, control of flight in terrain starts where? With a decision-making process to go flying to begin with in inclement weather, and that's the killer. So, anyhow, that's it. I'll try and set something like that up on the website. I'll talk to the web guy. I bet you charge me $2,000 for it. Hell, if it is, it's worth it though, isn't it? Because we can share that information, and it would benefit me as well. I mean, in the private pilot, or in the single engine realm, when I'm doing that kind of stuff. So, okay, take care. Remember, gut instinct, gut feeling, stop it, stop the flight, and it'll save you. Take care. See you.